Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Williams, and I am the Health and Safety Coordinator here at St. Ives Hospital. Today I'll be talking about a common health and safety concern, violence and harassment in the workplace. How many of you have experienced violence or harassment in the workplace? Over the past year, 76% of nurses experience violence in the workplace. This is a real problem affecting our healthcare professionals. We would like everyone to be educated on this issue. Our Executive Director, Jessica Claus, is a strong advocate for this program. We are dedicated to providing a safe and healthy workplace for all of our 10,000 staff members and 60 volunteers. What is violence and harassment? Workplace violence is defined by the Occupational Health and Safety Act as the exercise of physical force by a person against a worker in a workplace that causes or could cause physical injury to the worker. Some examples of this are threatening behaviors, verbal abuse, and physical abuse. Workplace harassment is defined as engaging in a course of vexatious comments or conduct against a worker in a workplace that is considered to be unwelcome. Some examples of this is sexual harassment, bullying, and making remarks that demean, intimidate, or offend. It is important for employers to address any unwanted behavior to minimize the potential for workplace harassment to lead to violence. I would like to share with you the results of a survey I recently completed about workplace violence and harassment. I surveyed 5 people and asked them a series of 8 questions. Here I summed it up into 4 of the most relevant questions for this discussion. So comparing the first 2 questions, 2 out of 5 people answered yes, they have experienced workplace violence and harassment, and 4 out of 5 people expressed that they have witnessed violence and harassment. This makes me understand that everyone interprets this differently. You may take it more seriously when it's happening to someone else than when it's happening to yourself. Question number 3, did you report the violence or harassment? 1 out of the 5 people I surveyed said they did report it. This makes me think that either they are too scared to report it or they don't know who to report it to or how to go about doing that. Question number 4, have you ever felt scared or uncomfortable going to work? 4 out of the 5 people I surveyed answered yes to this question, saying they have felt uncomfortable or scared going to work. Everyone should feel comfortable going to work. If you don't, you should report it to the appropriate person. Here are some statistics that I gathered on the Ontario Nurses Association website. 3,722 healthcare workers were injured by violence at work between 2005 and 2012. In comparison, the law enforcement sector saw only 241 workers injured over the same time period. Female nurses have about 21% greater odds of verbal abuse from patients, relatives, or staff. Male nurses have about 18% greater odds of physical abuse from patients, relatives, or staff. Mental health nurses have about 3 times the odds of physical assault than nurses in non-mental health settings. Those working in medical occupations had the 3rd highest proportion of workplace violence. There are many rules and regulations put into place to help regulate the health and safety in the workplace. Legislation and guidelines are put into place to help prevent workplace violence and harassment. Bill 168 is one of these legislations put into place called the Occupational Health and Safety Amendment Act for Violence and Harassment in the Workplace. This bill came into action in 2010. It is intended to help protect workers from violence and harassment in the workplace. Under Bill 168, employers must create workplace violence and harassment policies, develop programs to implement, and engage in assessment to measure the risk of workplace violence. The second one I'm going to talk about in this slide is the health and safety guidelines outlined in the Ministry of Health. This guide explains what every worker, supervisor, and employer needs to know about workplace violence and harassment requirements set out by the Occupational Health and Safety Act. It describes everyone's rights, responsibilities, and answers in plain language the questions that are most commonly asked. Feel free to click on either of these two links to find more information. Here are two of the most prevalent concerns and a few preventions that could be used to help minimize the incidence of workplace violence and harassment within the healthcare sector. These are outlined by the Ministry of Health in a document titled Preventing Workplace Violence. So the first concern is violence in healthcare sector is increasing. A couple of prevention measures that can be taken are, number one, creating reporting systems for workplace violence, so allowing staff to have access to someone to report this violence to and making sure the staff feels comfortable doing so. Number two is including workplace violence policies in quality insurance plans. So these quality insurance plans are done throughout the hospital, so we just want to make sure that violence and harassment policies are also checked over when they're going through this process. The second concern is nurses are primary victims to violence. So this is often due to the nurse's level of interaction with patients. So a couple preventions for this are to increase the support for patients with aggression so they don't feel the need to take it out on the nurse. And the second one is patient, family, and staff input into triggers for behavior and interactions. So if they're making sure that the staff knows the patient's specific trigger so that they don't activate that trigger and potentially cause a violent outbreak. This is a pictogram I came across on the Ontario Nurses Association website titled Workplace Violence and Harassment, Not Part of Your Job. It goes through a few statistics which were found in 2016. The first being lost time injuries caused by workplace violence are up more than 27% in the past 4 years. This number is shocking to me, and as a company we would like to provide the education needed to start seeing these numbers decrease. In 2016 alone, time lost by healthcare workers was 69 years, which is equivalent to 25,300 days of work missed due to workplace violence and harassment. Also in 2016, benefits paid out by WSIB were more than $4.7 million due to workplace violence. Reporting workplace violence and harassment to your supervisor is key, and it is also considered the law. Also on this slide, I have included a video clip titled End the Silence. This clip is about Ontario healthcare workers who shared the truth about workplace violence. It was taken in 2017. The identities of all the people in this video are kept confidential, and it's very eye-opening to see and witness the experiences of others who have personally experienced workplace violence and harassment and would like to see a change. The recommendations I have come up with for the company are all based on educating the staff on the following that are listed. The first being legislation and policies set out by the Ontario Ministry of Health and also the policies set out by the company itself. The second being providing examples of wanted and unwanted attention so everyone is aware of this and how to recognize it. The third is lay out disciplinary action that are clear and easy to understand. And the final one is report violent incidents. So we want to make sure that reporting these incidents is easy and is kept confidential. Some of the key points outlined throughout this presentation are the following. Understanding the laws and legislations set out by the Ontario Ministry of Health and also the policies set out by the company is important to know your rights as an employee and also the rights of your employer. Health and safety issues are still prevalent in the healthcare system, as you've seen through the statistics. We would like to start seeing improvements in the workplace. We are hoping to lower these statistics by providing education and resources needed to staff. Education of everyone in the workplace is important to prevent this health and safety concern. Everyone has the right to work in a safe and healthy workplace. Everyone also has the right to report if they are feeling uncomfortable or unsafe at work. Below I have outlined some benefits of this presentation and workplace violence as a whole. I'm hoping this presentation provided you with more insight into workplace violence and harassment. As a company, we would like to bring awareness and education to this topic. We have also provided some resources to help everyone better understand the rights and responsibilities of themselves and also the employer. Our goal overall is to have a safer workplace for everyone to feel safe and comfortable coming to work. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I'm available now for any outstanding questions or concerns.